Welcome back, silver fans. I haven't got any silver for you, but I wish to briefly talk about what this represents. This is what we call the world reserve currency. It's a currency issued by the United States of America, and in particular this is a Federal Reserve note. It has many symbols on that if you research they're quite interesting. You've got the pyramid with the all-seeing eye there. Not something you'd automatically recognise as American. Novus Audio Secundus, or some translated as the New World Order, and they have a date for that as well. Beside it they've got the American eagle there with stars. That is a Federal Reserve note. They can print as many of these as they want. There's plenty of paper in the world. I'm sure you throw out paper every day in your rubbish. Paper's not a commodity that we are running out of, simply because it comes from a renewable resource. We can always plant more trees. Therefore, we'll always have more paper. So you can print as much of this as they like. So what gives this value? Some say the authority of the government, which is true. It's recognised as legal tender. It says there, this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. So in America, it's illegal to refuse to accept this money as a payment of a debt. But what does this dollar have backing it that says it's worth something? Previously, American currency was backed by gold or silver certificates. They were backed by a commodity. I wrote an article on Easyline Articles that explains why this should really be known as an oil dollar. Because it's the world's reserve currency, it's backed by the need to buy oil. However, even that nowadays is failing to support this dollar as they continue to print trillions of it to fund their ever-expanding deficit, which runs into the trillions, tens of trillions now. It's only going to get worse with the ageing population. Huge Medicare bills and other liabilities, social security liabilities, come their way. The truth about this dollar, this piece of paper, it represents a debt obligation. It represents that someone owes someone something. In this case, it's the U.S. Treasury owes the Federal Reserve a debt. A debt of what? It's a promise to pay. The question is, a promise to pay what? Whenever you enter into a mortgage or any other agreement, you're agreeing you're going to meet the obligations of that debt, normally by slaving away a fair part of your life to pay off that mortgage or car or holiday or whatever it is. So you're exchanging labour for it. And the history of America is one built on a history of slave labour. Many of you, when you hear me say that, are going to say, oh, are you talking about the blacks in America? Yes and no. If you think of slavery in America only as African Americans, you're wrong. Many of the first settlers who came to the United States of America were what we call indentured servants, or indentured. It doesn't mean they were slaves for life, but they were slaves for long periods of time, anywhere from 7 to 14 years. And they were obliged to work off their debts before they became free citizens. So many people who we think of the first settlers, who we think of Caucasian people, if you want to use that term, though when it comes to money, skin colour is irrelevant, they came over as slaves too to America. And America has a long history of slavery. Now, most people would say, well, slavery was abolished by Abraham Lincoln in the Civil War. Which also isn't entirely true. He abolished slavery in the Confederate States, which, considering they'd declared their independence, could only be done by imposing force. And it was only later that the slavery was outlawed in all the states. My argument is slavery in America, thanks to this Federal Reserve note and the formation of the Federal Reserve in 1913, is well and truly in existence today. Just about every American 95% of them who don't control the wealth are slaves. They go to work from week to week to pay their debts, their credit card debts, their mortgages, their car loans, all sorts of other forms of debt that they have. They can't have a choice whether they go to work or not. They've got to work. They've got to work to feed their family and pay their bills and pay their debt. And ever since these Federal Reserve notes came into the picture, the average debt of the United States citizen has increased and increased and increased. So much so that now the average United States citizen has over $100,000 of private and government debt. Some have even estimated as much as $500,000 per citizen. Now, it would take a lifetime of work. It would take more than the 7 years or 14 years that the indentured servants first came over with to pay off that debt. They could never do it because the interest would keep on accumulating. It'd be very difficult to get rid of that debt and get ahead. So this is what this truly represents, this note. This note is a note of slavery. It's a note of indentured servitude. This is a promise of debt for every American citizen.